Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Outspoken with me, your host, Eric Shepard. Hooray, hooray. We got a good one tonight. We haven't done one in a couple weeks. I was sick last week or dead or something. I don't know. So I still sound terrible. But that's all right, because you're not here to listen to me. You're here to listen to our guest. Speaking of, we've got some other guests lined up. We have Bob Bergen is coming up on, god dang, like the 20th, I think. I don't know. We'll put it out on a clicky-click, whatever. But I think June 20th. And I've been chatting with Rob Paulson. I think he's going to come on the show, which is cool. And we're trying to do a coach week. I thought that would be fun. And we get some coaches that we know, and they're not, like the bad guys, and have them all come on and chat about their stuff. So we're setting that up as well, which would be fun. So if you're interested in any of that voiceover stuff, then subscribe and whatever. Tonight, I do still sound terrible, for Christ's sake. I look good, though. I got to tell you. If you're... There's Lofty in the background. Yeah, sure. If you're watching live, let us know if there's any hiccups. And if you have any questions for our guest, put it in the chat. And if it's deemed worthy, if you're worthy enough. Hold on, I'm going to go down. Oh, that's better, right? Yeah, it's better. If you're deemed worthy, then we'll answer your questions. Or we won't. I don't know. Anyway, my guest... coming to us live from down under, from Australia, it's Lofty Fulton.
Hey, man, how you doing?
Everybody goes crazy.
Yay!
Nice. Hold on, where am I? There I am.
There we are.
Where are you?
Yeah,
I was going to say
you still
evening.
Look pretty. I don't look pretty, but I might sound pretty.
Dude, this
so
is old
I'll sound
thing.
pretty. You look pretty. How about that?
Aging is a bitch, man. It beats the alternative, though.
Are you calling me old?
No, I think you're older than me, man. So if you're older than me, you're old.
Yeah. Well,
you're
that's
older,
official. I'm
you're
old.
older than me.
I'm
We're
really
surprised
old.
you're alive. It's morning for you. I don't even. You're what? Outside of Sydney, right?
Yeah, exactly. About an hour and a half down the road from Sydney, on the south coast of a state called New South Wales. Basically, similar kind of weather to what you get in California, just to kind of put it into perspective for people.
But it's a different season, right? It's morning.
Yeah,
what is it? It's winter now, right?
It's Friday morning.
Oh my God! Which way do your toilets flush?
Oh my God! Generally down.
Doesn't all the blood rush to your head being upside down like that?
Oh God! Can't you tell?
Do you know Paul Hogan? I know that's all the Australian stuff. I know.
Yeah,
Americans
yeah.
don't know anything about Australia. We're all
I know. I
like
went round to
confused.
his place so he could throw a shrimp on the barbie.
That's pretty much like the extent of any of our knowledge of Australia. Although, I saw a thing not long ago where it was like one of those things, where they superimpose countries over another one, and they always superimpose it over the states because that's, for Americans, that's all that matters. And I was like, I didn't realize, man, it's freaking huge. I mean, it's big. I mean, it's a whole continent, but like as compared to, the states, which everybody thinks is massive, it's big, man. It's a lot of nothing.
I think there's like only a bees. There's the expression that we use, a bees, what, between like when we're talking hundreds of thousands of square miles or kilometers, there's only like a couple of thousand difference between the two in area size, I believe. Google that, people. Australia is, as a continent, almost as large in land size as what the US is.
Yeah, big. I don't know. Like I said, we don't know much about Australia. But things are different there. We're in the industry, in the voiceover industry, so I want to get into that. So because I think most of our viewers are
go for it.
American, so we'll talk about that. Well, let's go on about that. In the States, as most people know, you have a bunch of agents usually. I would say you can have a girl in every port, and they're you have exclusivity usually in their area. So you got your New York agent and your LA agent and your Texas agent, your Chicago and blah blah blah, whatever. But in Australia, it's a different story. No.
Yeah, that is quite right. Generally, and it comes down to the population size and also the talent base. I mean, we are a country of some 26, 27 million people. So that's, you've probably got that many people in one state. But, so the population base isn't nearly as big. We're not even a tenth the size of the US as far as population goes. What are you, 350 million or something like that? So there's one thing. You're working with a tenth less than 10% the size of talent base. So generally you have one agent who's looking after you on the voiceover side of things, because we're not determined by the state borders, as you just said. You could and as you are my agent in Texas, and you've also got me in New York, I also have an agent in LA, but here you have one agent that does all, basically.
So, and there was, at least I think there's like the two big boys, right? And then most of the larger talent like yourself are with one or the other, and that's pretty much the game, right? Pretty
much that's pretty well it. There's two or maybe three major agencies. Like there's two really large agencies, one of which I'm obviously a part of, or not obviously a part of. There's nothing obvious about it. But there's two major voiceover, and then there's a third, but not quite as large, if that makes sense. A third and a fourth, and a couple of others as well. Generally, the couple of others will look after both. They're sort of acting agents that do a bit of voiceover on the side, whereas you have two massive agencies that are purely voiceover driven.
Well, Lofty is huge in Australia. See, a lot of U.S. folks don't know. They might hear the voice. Oh, yeah, wait a second or whatever. But like me, like I'm huge in Japan. No, I'm not. No, I'm not. Nobody knows. That would be fun, though, right? It would be just some other country.
Oh,
You're like some
absolutely.
Huge. I can't even walk down the street. Nah, it's not true, though.
Yeah, no, I know. Well, that's also because you're a lot taller and a lot prettier than most of the population in Japan. So you stand out, head and shoulders above the rest. What can I say?
If I was in Japan,
I'd blend right in. Yeah.
So I have to tell my Lofty story. So this is my Lofty story. I met Lofty. This is a long time ago, man.
11 years ago, 2008 Voice.
Was it? Yeah, Voice in L.A. Voice for you young whippersnappers, you kids, man. Voice was like the conference back then. It was really kind of the only one that was happening. Props to James and Penny, man. Used to put that thing on, and it was friggin' great, man. That was a good one. And so I was at one of these breakout sessions or whatever the hell it is, and there's people getting up on the mic, walking and asking questions. I guess there was somebody, on stage doing their blah, 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 whatever. So I'm not paying attention at this point. I'm drunk or whatever, like on my phone. And so people are coming up and they're asking, the same questions on the thing or whatever. So Lofty comes up and he's behind me and he starts talking. And I'm like, bing, something goes off because I'm a freak like that. I'm like, that voice, man, I love I just hear a voice and I go freaking crazy over it. And I'm like, thanks, man, it's Australian and it's booming and whatever, So wow, so I'm like, whiplash. Who's this guy, man? And I'm expecting like this ogre, because he's got this it's like massive whatever, and it's Loft. I'm what? Wow. So I'm sure you get that all the time, and I don't know if that's like weird or whatever, but it's just it's such a cool thing about voiceover that it's we all know. You can't see the face and think of the voice and vice versa and whatever, but it was just so like, what, really? All right, I have to meet this freaking guy, man, because pipes, holy cow, man, that was it.
Can I tell you, you are the only person who has ever reacted that way.
I'm sure.
Everyone else is just, like poker face. No one's ever reacted to the sort of disconnect between what I look like and what I sound like, because
I know. I'm sorry. It's probably boring you. But I guess everybody has it. I guess most people don't really think of the voice, do they? Or they expect you to have a different voice?
I think a lot of people expect me to sound like a jockey, he's going to have a really high-pitched, squeaky voice because he's only like 4'8". I mean, after all, he's a dwarf, so he's probably going to sound like one. He's probably going to sound like one of Snow White's friends, and a similar story to that. I tried to dump you in it by saying you're the only person who's ever reacted that way. A number of years ago, when you guys have had cable television in the US forever, we've only ever had, up until sort of like the early 90s, late 80s, free-to-air television, terrestrial. It wasn't cable. It was just stick an antenna on your roof and anyone can pick it up. Then cable TV or pay TV started here in Australia, and it brought with it a number of channels, one of which was a sports channel at the time called Premier Sports Network, and now known as Fox Sports, of course. and all its iterations thereof. And this was way before Captain Google was everyone's friend, where you could just punch in a name and you get pictures and so on. So the way casting used to happen, and Eric, you'd remember this from the bad old days, demos were put together and they were loaded onto a cassette. Yeah. And those cassettes were sent out by mail.
Physically.
A person called the postman, or postperson more, politically correctly, would deliver these things to agencies. Then when CDs came along, they generated into CDs. So as I say, you couldn't just Google someone's name and go, okay, this is what the dude looks like. So when this audition process was happening, they had booked a studio in town, which I'd not previously been to, and they basically bought the whole day at the studio. They started at like 9 a.m, and they were still there late at night. I think my audition from memory was about 6 or 7 o'clock at night. So I've rocked up to this place. It was an old TV station, and anyone who's been in a TV station knows they're kind of like rabbit warrens. And so I've wandered in, and the receptionist has looked up and gone, "Can I help you?" Yeah, hi, my name's Lofty. I'm here to do an audition for Hugh at Premier Sports. Oh. Okay, well, what you do is you go up the stairs, along the corridor, you'll get to another set of stairs, go down those stairs, go through another short corridor, then you'll come to a door, and when you go through that door, you'll have another receptionist there, and that's sort of like the production studio. Oh, good, thanks, cheers. So I wandered off, followed the directions as best I could, and got to this other girl, and I walked in, and she's gone, "Can I help you?" "Yeah, hi, my name's Lofty. I'm here to do an audition for Hugh." "Oh. Okay, please take a seat." And she's gestured to her right. I know that's left of screen for you guys who are watching this.
That's stage left, we call it in the biz.
Stage left. And so I've gone and sat on this couch, stage left, about 2 or 3 meters away. And, the nerves for the audition are starting to get to me. So I'm thinking, okay, what can I do? I'll just pick up one of these magazines that I don't really want to read off the coffee table and started flicking through it. Anyway, the doors to the production suite opened up and about 3 or 4 guys came out. And they're starting to look at their watches, going, "Oh, God, whoever this Lofty guy is, he's late and he's holding the whole process up." And I could see the receptionist out the corner of my eye going, "That's Lofty." And Hugh, the guy, goes, "What? That's Lofty. Are you sure?" "Yes." So Hugh comes up, stretches out his Lofty, and I still stood up to greet him, and I went, "Yeah, hi, Hugh, nice to meet you," and went in and did the audition. Anyway, the next day he rings my agent and he says, "Why didn't you tell us about Lofty?" And to his credit, my agent, John, at the time goes, "What about him?"
Well, yeah, exactly. Tell you what?
Was he difficult to deal with? Was he late? Was he what? Did he not do the job properly? What's the story? No, we love what he did. It's just, why didn't you tell us what he looks like? And he goes, "Well, why does it matter? You're hiring him for his voice, not what he looks like."
Well, I didn't tell you what anybody else looks like either.
Yeah, exactly. And but the funny thing is, I ended up getting the gig anyway, and was the voice of Premier Sports Network and Fox Sports for about 10 years or so. And Hugh and I, whenever we would go out for a drink, or the crew would go out for a drink together, the story got taller and taller, or shorter and shorter, whichever the case may be. And it's had a few funny situations like that down through time, because people just don't expect it.
Well, it's the name too, which is why it's such a great name too, because it throws them, And then you go, wait, clever.
Mm-hmm. I had this is a visual one, and hopefully it'll work when I'm just going to stand up and show you this. I went to another studio again before Captain Google, so he only knew that he was expecting somebody with who was coming in by the name of Lofty. And this is what I got. I walked in the front door of his reception. He was doing something behind his receptionist's desk, and his receptionist wasn't there at the time. So I walked in, and he's gone, "I'll be with you in a moment." And I've just gone, "Sure, no problem." He's turned around and gone, and I've just stretched out my hand and gone, "Hi, I'm Lofty. I'm here to do a voiceover for you." And oh man, it freaks people out all the time. It's great.
Yeah, but do you just have to expect that all the time? Like, it's going to be another one of these things, and then it takes them a second to get over it, and then.
Exactly.
Like, that's a pain in the ass.
That's it. But then again, whilst it used to really annoy the crap out of me, particularly, when I was younger and I'd get bullied and all of that kind of stuff, what had started out as the bane of my life has probably become my biggest asset, because in the sense of it makes me memorable. So even if somebody can't, and my agent, I know, has had phone calls of, look, we'd like to book a guy who we used about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and we can't remember his name, but he's not very tall. Oh, you mean Lofty? Yeah, that's it. Lofty. We want to book him again. And so, that's...
as you know, back, you're talking about the old days and the carts and all that stuff. Back in the day, there wasn't a billion people in this industry. I always say, like, back years ago, when people say, oh, what do you do for a living? And, I'd bring it up. And they just go friggin' nuts, man. They think, like, it was like you said you were a unicorn trainer, like they're just, that's a thing, man. Like, it was so, mind-blowing to them that voiceover was actually a thing. Like, they had never heard somebody's voice before, But now there's so many billions of them. And, so many billions, and, Bob and Dick and Harry and whatever. And so to stand out in any way, shape, or form is so difficult. And you got these, these pipes are inhuman. But I mean, on top of
I'm
that,
actually an alien in disguise.
I believe it. But yeah, to have that.
You would have thought I would have picked a better human body to come to Earth as an alien in, wouldn't you?
Listen, man.
Something that would have blended in a little bit more. But anyway, sorry, go on.
I interrupted. Knocking around. It's just not, like you said, to have something where they remember you at least. They go, oh yeah, the guy, he was all right, well, whatever. Yeah, man, whatever. Well, whatever it takes to be remembered or to stick out in this industry, because who cares? Okay, so no, go on. Can
I share one other one with you? It's again, years ago. It was a radio station up north, and as we determined before, Australia is quite a large state, and some people might have heard of Queensland, Surfers Paradise, the Gold Coast, places like that, Great Barrier Reef. It was up around that area, far, far from where I am now. Basically, sort of think Florida to California or whatever. The creative director of this particular radio station had been told to book me for this job. So they rang up my agent and they said, I need to book a Lofty. What's a Lofty?
Do you have one or two?
Yes, yeah. My agent and I he had to share it with me. We just laughed about that for ages, and he said, "Well, it's not a thing; it's a person." So yeah, you can book Lofty. When would you like to use him? So yeah,
that's funny. Okay, so I gotta do the thing. I hate the thing, so we'll do the thing briefly. So you touched on it a bit. So how long have you been doing this? How'd you get started? Blah, blah, blah. You probably got the story. I'm almost positive you have the story like everybody. Yeah, puberty hits, and then you got the pipes, and it's amazing, and then everybody says, do radio. Yes?
Well, it was, to her credit, it was my mother that suggested I go into radio. But at
God.
The time,
my mom says I have a nice voice, really? That's right?
Well, no. What happened?
That old saw?
What actually happened was, and men who have been through puberty, of course, and their voice breaking will remember the time probably quite possibly well, and with sort of nightmarish memories of it all. My voice didn't do that, that whole choir boy phase of like going when it was getting ready to break. It literally broke overnight.
You just woke up one morning like, hi. What?
Yeah. True story. It was a Saturday morning. My mum was doing her, Alice from the Brady Bunch routine, cleaning the house, and had her cleaning clothes on and the waist high apron and feather duster, sort of like midair. And I've woken up, looked down the hallway, and seen her with her back to me, and I've just something that she'd heard from, she's raised 4 kids. I'm the youngest of the 4, and she'd heard this plenty of times before. I just said, "Cup of tea and toast, thanks, Mum." And she's just stopped. I remember the feather duster just freezing midair, and she's just turned around and looked at me and gone, "What did you say?" I thought, oh no, I've forgotten my manners. My mum was a huge stickler for manners. Oh, no, I did say please. "Cup of tea and toast, thanks, Mum." And she just looked at me as if to go, who are you and what have you done with my son?
Yeah,
My
well,
voice just
then
broke
now
like
there's a
that
man in
overnight.
the house. Yeah,
Yeah,
my
exactly.
boy's 13 and he still hasn't gone through the change yet. And oh my
Oh,
God, we're
give him
like
another couple of years.
yeah, we're begging for it. We're like, oh, it's gonna be nice, man. Well, it's good because we got him on the mic actually doing some kid stuff. But we're like,
Mm.
it's enough of the screeching. Good God,
But that
come on.
kid's got talent. He can play musical instruments and all sorts of
Yeah, he
stuff.
plays the tuba. The tuba.
Yeah,
Out of
the
all
tuba.
things, he was like, I want to go out for. I was like, dude, it's huge, man. Because I played drums, it's a pain in the ass to
Mm-hmm.
drag those around. I'm like, dude, harmonica. Something small, you put it in your pocket. No, tuba. The thing's bigger than him.
Yeah.
And
A
then I'm the one
flute.
who's got to like bring it down the stairs in a case, like dragging a dead body.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Okay.
welcome to parenting.
So,
Yeah,
all
go
right.
for
So
it.
you have the voice now, and then so what? And you do radio, yes? You go into radio. You say,
What?
I've got a voice, and then this is what I have to do now.
Well,
no?
it was the whole Willy Wonka golden ticket thing. In the sense of when I was growing up, or when I was getting older. I got to a certain point and stopped growing up. But as I got older, I wanted to be a chef. And then in high school, you get a chance to do what they call work experience, which is you get a placement for a week in an industry of your choosing. And I learned then and there that obviously I was never going to be able to be a chef because the kitchen stuff is just way too tall. And I was really disappointed. And then when my mum said, you should think about a career in radio, I went, as all obnoxious teenagers do, yeah, sure, Mum, what do you know? And she suggested to my speech and drama teacher that, I might have a future in radio. And so when the speech and drama teacher said to me, I think you've got a future in radio, I went, hey, that's a great idea. And in the small town that I grew up in,
That's when you
one
said,
of
you
my-
know what? I have a great idea. I should go into radio.
hey, Mum, I've thought of something. I should go into radio. She goes, yes, dear, thanks. So the local radio station would give the schools time to come in and report on what they'd been doing during the term or semester. And the speech and drama teacher at my school was in charge of, handing those reports and deciding who would go and do them. So I went and did a few of them. And the very last one, I thought, well, God, if I make a mistake, I know they can just rewind the tape and we'll do it all again. So I just kind of relaxed and did it. It went to air a couple of days later, and I'm like 16 at the time, Eric. And I'm listening to it go to air during breakfast time, primetime radio, and the breakfast announcer comes on the end of it and goes, man, that guy has got a great future in radio. And man, you could have peeled me off the ceiling. It's like, he just said I could possibly be in radio. And so I'm at school a couple of days later, and I get paged to the office, and I think, okay, I've done something wrong. And I go up to the office, and it's like, ring John at Radio 7LA. So I rang John and got to his secretary, and she says, look, John was wondering if you'd come in and have a chat to him. And I said, oh, look, do you know what it's about? And she said, I'm not sure, but I think it's about a job. And at this stage, I was getting ready to go to radio school and, shell out the hard-earned dollars for somebody to train me. And John said, well, look, we'd like to teach you the ropes after school, but being a competitive market, you won't have the experience to stay here. And he was at a management conference after I'd been at the station for a while, and a small town radio station manager he was sitting next to said, we've just lost our nighttime guy. Do you know a rookie who can fill the position? I said, yeah, got just the guy for you. So I just walked into radio and spent about 10 years doing that. Got really bored playing the same songs over and over and over and over and over. Oh, that's the new song by Madonna. So I got to the age of 28 and thought, can I still see myself doing this at the age of 40? And the answer was no. And I had to learn how to read commercials as part of the gig. So I thought, well, let's have a crack at freelancing. And that was back in 1992.
But you still do radio, and that you do, what is it, 2GB? You do a lot of,
Yeah.
Hold on a second. I've got a thing.
Get ready to rock or bust as AC/DC hits Australia for their world tour.
I see Lofty as a standard in the industry. I mean, you often will hear, can you book Lofty? If Lofty's busy, can you get something like Lofty? So he's kind of a standard for heavy rock and roll, the deep inner world voice.
It's rock or bust.
So, of course,
That was for
in
AC/DC.
Australia, you're talking about AC/DC.
Yeah, exactly. And that was one of my clients that in the freelance world. And that particular piece that you just played was from a feature piece that one of the networks did on me and went to air on 6:30 on prime time night, and it was a really good piece. She did an awesome job of it. So
yeah, well, we're like the last stop of your tour on the book, but let me get through the VO stuff, and then we'll get to the book.
Yeah, sure.
Because that's
sure.
why I had you on, because I want you to talk about this book. We're gonna plug it. So, all right, we got the radio thing. So you imaging guy, radio guy. Then you do, because let me get all my clips out of the way. So you do commercial as well. Hold on, I've got clips.
Yeah,
I got clips, man.
Cool, go for it.
KFC's boxed meals, now with a new popcorn chicken box, packed with popcorn chicken. They're not a mouthful, they're an armful. Get unlimited standard talk and text for $39.90 a month. BYO Mobile. Amazing. It's your call.
So, I mean, obviously these are just some examples, but I mean, they're utilizing the big thing that you got going on. Yeah. Yeah.
And I get to do the whole lot. You mentioned about radio imaging. I'm doing the imaging for the #1 radio station here in Sydney. It's a talkback radio station, and that is part of what I do. I also do the imaging and promos for Sky News, which is probably similar, a lighter version of Fox News that you'd be familiar with in the States, obviously. And one that I'm super, super proud of is MasterChef Australia, which, would you believe, is the most watched cooking program in the world. Not MasterChef itself, but MasterChef Australia. It goes to 180 countries around the world.
Want to be in that top 2?
They will deliver the best food
Absolutely delicious.
we've seen this season. Our contestants drew on childhood memories.
How'd you like that segue?
Oh,
Boom, man. Right to
Yeah,
the
boom,
clip.
straight into it.
You set
Hey,
me
man,
up,
you and I
man.
should work together. You know,
right.
we're kind of good at this stuff.
And you set me
And
up.
so modest at it as well, yeah.
Hey, man, does the big voice hurt sometimes because you're saying, yeah, I'm doing some radio stuff and I got the imaging stuff and you got and I know there's other guys that complain about that sometimes too, especially when years ago, and everything went the guy next door. But the guy next door doesn't sound like freaking Lofty, man. I mean, that's how you got into this in the first place. So that we want it smaller, we want it real normal and whatever. Does that hurt or no?
No, thankfully, over the years, I've learned to look after my voice, and it's something that we all do. And Melissa Exelberth, I should say. Melissa, I apologize if I pronounced your name incorrectly both times.
No, it wasn't right.
I got some brilliant advice from her one day. And it was on a trip to the States. Actually, I think it was either Voice 2008 or 2010, one of the two. I ended up getting laryngitis at the end of the trip. And she said to me, whatever you do, just don't talk, don't whisper. Because, and I'm telling people this because it's from her own experience, it is one of the worst things you can possibly do. People go, oh, my throat's sore or my voice is sore. No, you just rest it. You don't push it. And there are jobs that if it's being really demanding and they want you to scream and rip the back of your throat out, there is a time where you'll go, guys, enough's enough. I've got other work to do today, and I'm sorry, I can't strip my throat just for the sake of this one session when other clients are going to want me to sound more normal, so to speak.
We've had other guests talk about that, and it's you got to schedule your day sometimes if you have something that's supposed to be kind of more mellifluous or whatever, and then you've got a video game set up in your whatever, battle grunting and that kind of thing. You can't, man, because that's it. And then sometimes you got to go, I don't know which one's paying more today, or can I do one after the other, or am I even going to have the energy to do the other one after doing one, that just kicked my ass for 2 hours. And now I'm supposed to do something that's easier, but it's longer. And, you're exhausted. I mean, people don't realize it's real work,
Exactly. And something that, is along the lines of pillow talk. You're trying to appeal to guys who are wanting to woo their partners or their wives or vice versa, women wanting to woo their partners, husbands, etc. And so, you're wanting to do that more sort of like sensual read. And as you just said, if you just come off the back of a video game, chances are you're going to sound like that. And, no one really wants that. And So like you say, you plan your day, but also you can plan your session in the sense of the station that I do the imaging for. They also have what is known as rugby league. They do the coverage of that, and which is one of the national sports played out here. Think sort of like gridiron, I suppose, or American football. And so when we're doing promos for that, we push them to the back of the session. We don't start the session with it. We'll get into, doing some imaging like today's weather, thanks to so-and-so, rather than starting out with this weekend, the guys are going to go head to head, running into each other. Who's going to score first? All of that kind of stuff. So if I can give any advice for what it's worth, everyone's got advice and you don't always necessarily want to hear it. But for those who are just starting out in the industry or those looking for a few clues in the industry, when you've got sessions like that where it's taking you from one gamut to the other, it is okay to say to whoever you're working with, can we put this to the back of the session because, that's where we're going to end up and we don't want to start out there. What would you say to that, Eric? What's your thoughts on that? You're an agent. Would you be upset if one of the clients came back saying, "Hey, we wanted him to scream his lungs out first up, but he said, can we leave it till the end of the session?" What would you say to somebody like that?
Well, yeah. I mean, if they had any brains, they'd realize, that's better. They're going to, talent most of the time, no. But, it's difficult. You remember before you were, like the big guy, talent get a little timid sometimes. They're afraid to ask those things because you're supposed to be, nice and you're supposed to be accommodating and you're supposed to take direction. And yes, sure, 50 more takes, whatever you want. You want me to jump, how high, whatever. So I think it takes some time before you have not the balls, but just, this self-awareness to say, hey, listen, I think it's best if we do this first, or is it okay if we do this first and we do that? Because I don't know if I can hold out or whatever, but that's the mark of a pro.
Well, it's only the last 5 years that I've been able to really do that because just like everyone else up until that point in time, I was timid. It's like if the client, and it would be that sort of merry dance of, oh gosh, I hope they still want to use me even though I asked them if we could do the hard stuff last and blah, 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 blah. So yeah, I still get those conversations in my head as well. It's like,
I was talking to a colleague yesterday too. We were talking about agents and blah, blah, blah. And one of our talent was here. And we were talking about that same thing about our talent kind of, that it's just ingrained in you basically to be, like a people pleaser. And say, I don't know why they don't bring more stuff to their agents. And now talent are getting more and more stuff on their own. But they're terrible at freaking doing the business side just for that reason. Gotcha. Because it's awkward. It's weird to say, to be like kind of go back and forth about rate maybe, and then afterwards be like, hey, I'm your talking monkey or what, like it makes things weird. And I don't know why they don't rest on their agents more and let us be the bad guy, and then you could just, I don't know, that guy's a dick, but I'm glad that you guys worked everything out and now I'm happy to be here, kind of focus on that.
That is a really good point. And so many times I have handballed it back to my agent, particularly here in Australia where, I'm working constantly. Well, when I say constantly, that sounds like I'm big noting myself, but I'm working on a semi-regular basis. So my primary source of work is from here in Australia. So the dealings I have primarily are with my Australian agent. And, of course, that just makes perfect sense to anybody. And I will always handball it to them. I'll even have clients come to me directly going, we really want to use you on this spot, blah, 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 blah. And I'll go, great, give Alex a call or give Rachel a call at the agency. They'll get it sorted for you. And what it does straight away. So this is a very important point that you brought up, Eric, and it's one that I hope people can learn from. Use your agent. That's what they're there for. That's what they get commission for. And they are the ones who are happy to go, man, what are you thinking? He's not going to do that for $5. Forget it. Come back to us when you've got, more dollars to speak about, or, you want to be reasonable about it. They let them be the bad guy, because at the end of the day, if you've got what the client wants, they'll come back and they'll find a way.
I think, I think it is. I think talent are, especially now when rates are going down, in the States especially, I think they go, I don't want to share the money with anybody else. I don't want them to take a cut. But meanwhile, your agent normally gets you like twice the goddamn amount of money anyway. So they're going to get you more even before they take out, they get you for their 10 or 15% or whatever. So I don't know. I don't know, man. I don't get talent. I don't understand talent anymore. I don't understand the whole industry.
No, neither do I. Unfortunately, they're trying a very similar thing. We tend to do whatever the States do. Like all my work had been offsite. By that I mean you go to the studios. Home studios were very much frowned upon, and there's good reason.
Until when?
Probably only the last 3 to 5 years. That and there is good reason for that, because some people said, yeah, sure, I've got a home studio. And a friend of mine, Kieran, said to me, he said, yeah, no matter how hard you try, you cannot mix the sound of gyp rock or drywall, is what you might call it in the States, out of somebody's reed. And they're right. They couldn't be assured of the quality they've got. But behind me, just here, that's my booth. Now, it's not a fancy schmancy industry-made one. What it is 4 hollow core, like internal doors. I'll just open it for you, Eric. So you
yeah.
can see. Turn the light on. And as you can see, it's lined with audio foam, and it works a treat. I do a lot of my work out of here now, but the thing, in answer to your question, is studios were really concerned about the quality, because if somebody records something at home and it's not up to scratch, they can't do anything with it. They can't fix it, and they can have a client sitting in a very expensive studio going, "Can you fix that?" No, we can't. I'm sorry.
So that booth.
Sorry, go again.
That booth isn't giving you a ton of soundproofing, but the sound in it is good. I guess you've got kind of a quieter room anyway.
Got a really quiet area that we're in. Very lucky, very fortunate, and also using the 416 being a very directional microphone. It doesn't tend to pick up a lot of ambient sound. So and there's configurations that I use. The radio station client that we were talking about earlier, they like me on the Neumann. I
was just going to say, man, for a big boomer like you, some of the big boomy guys don't like the 416, but it works on you.
Look, I go with whatever mic I'm using, but he painstakingly came around. He lives not far from me, and he said, look, why travel 2 hours up the road to come and do a session for us? Only to then have to drive 2 hours home. If we can get you set up to the point where the sound coming out of your place is the same as the sound that we're getting out of you here, then why not work from home? And it's the same now for MasterChef as well. Just this season, they have set it up, and we dial in via Source Connect, and they've got a sound they're happy with, as do Sky News. So, if they're the only guys I'm working for in a week, I never get to leave home.
Yeah, which is, and then you go, well, that's nice. But in a way, it was nice when you got out too, right? I mean, then you become this thing where you turn into this golem kind of whatever, because you never go anywhere.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that was the beauty of it. I still love having contact in studios, but now that thanks to this worldwide thing called the internet, whilst it has brought with it its share of curses, as in people who, I can do that. I'll just grab a tin pot microphone. I've got a voice. I can do voiceovers, and I'll charge them $2.50, to do their spot for them. But the beauty of making everyone accessible, it's also a positive for those of us who do this seriously as a living as well. We can be anywhere in the world and working, like MasterChef. As a result of MasterChef, and as I said, that it goes to like 180 countries in the world, I ended up being the voice of a news TV station over in Sri Lanka. They tracked me down because they'd heard me on MasterChef, and they wanted to use me on their promos over there. So, again, here I am in little old Australia, and they're 3/4 of the way around the other side of the world.
Well, and like you say, you don't have that commute either, too. And that's work time. And that's time when you're not voicing for somebody else. Like we were talking about, your schedule. Well, listen, if you're driving, like you said, 2 hours into the studio, and then you got to blah, 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 and okay, bye, guys, whatever, and drive back, you're not getting paid for that time.
No, that's exactly right. Maurice Tobias, who many watching may be familiar with. She's an awesome. They call her the voice whisperer. She's both a mentor and a coach. And if you ever get the chance to work with her, then please seize it with both hands. She was out here doing a workshop a few years ago now, and Maurice and I are good mates. And I was showing her around the traps, and she came along on a ride along with me one day, as she called it. And it was exactly that, Eric. I think I had 3 or 4 jobs on that day that I was literally going to and from different studios. And in the workshop, she mentioned, which was held after this particular day we'd spent together, she was saying to the other people there that eventually when it gets to a stage of you being able to work from home, it's going to be good, because from what I saw in that ride along, you spent something like 3 to 4 hours in the car for what ended up being a total of 15 or 20 minutes behind the microphone.
Yeah.
And like you say, it's a lot of time wasted.
Okay. Let's talk about the book. This is why I wanted you on.
Gotcha.
I mean, not because, we didn't want to talk about voiceover, but you've been on like a press tour kind of thing. And all kinds of stuff, man. You got all, which for my head always goes right back to voiceover, and I'm thinking, it's good, man. That's good for a voiceover guy, to be on the news. And of course, that gets the same package. You've heard his voice on a blah blah blah. You've heard this guy on a million. The voice,
but you may not know what he looks like.
Yeah, whomp. Here we whatever. It's. I saw like a couple of these interviews they did with him, and it's like, God, you don't have anything new. Every single like piece or local piece or whatever on any voiceover, it's always the same thing. You've heard him on blah, 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 but do you know that he's got a zit or whatever? You're like, okay. But whatever, good press, man.
Oh, awesome press.
But why did you, anyway, the book, we'll plug the hell out of the book, My Life in Short.
Yeah, go for it.
First, this is no comedy, for Christ's sake, man. This is like a listing. Like, I don't know if it's on like the freaking dust cover or whatever, but you're talking about
it is on the dust cover.
Dwarfism and medical issues, anxiety, depression, gambling. Dude, this is not like a light read. Why write it? Why? I mean, like you said, you're a busy guy and whatever. Why did you say, you know what? I'm going to just like spill all my demons and let everybody read about them?
It was... I mentioned up until about 5 years ago, I was really timid in studios, and I didn't like to stick my hand up and go, do you mind if we do the really screamy one last? You just do what you do. We've all been there. It's this thing of, well, if I don't do it the exact way that they want me to do it, then they might get someone else. And, am I really good enough to be able to do this kind of stuff? And I had basically a breakdown. I suffered. I just literally fell off a cliff one day. I had an anxiety attack in a studio of all places. I got 3 lines into a corporate narration. You might call them industrials, I think. And this corporate narration was, about 2 hours long. I got 3 lines into it and started talking gibberish. And all of a sudden, I started sweating profusely, and my anxiety levels just went through the roof, and that led me to having basically a breakdown where I stopped functioning for 3 months. Helen, my partner, the love of my life, who, Eric, I know you know, and some other people watching this may have met as well, she was happy if I got out of bed and had a shower, even if that meant getting out of bed, having a shower, and going back to bed. I basically got hit with a bout of general anxiety disorder and clinical depression, and it left me in a very, very dark place. And that dark place along the way included contemplating suicide on more than one occasion. And when I finally came out of it and got to the other end and was able to slay some demons, that's when a couple of the interviews happened that you saw before the book came about. And in posting those online, somebody said to me, Lofty, you should think about writing a book. And I thought, wow, I've heard that before, but I wasn't in the headspace to do it. Now I am. And so I just sat down and spewed it all out. The initial phase was a bit like, when you plant a tree, you plant it, you let it grow, it goes everywhere. And so it was spewing it all out, getting it down on paper, then pruning it back and knocking it into the sort of shape that we have now. And I did that along with my ghostwriter, who, even though I wrote the stories, it was Nicole who threaded them together to give us the narrative we've got. And in putting all of those things out there, I just slayed so many demons, got over a lot of issues, was able to release a lot of baggage. And what happened when I thought about writing the book, I said to Nicole, I'm thinking about writing it. And she'd done one of the feature stories on myself and another voiceover artist that I'd posted it online. And she said, I can be your ghostwriter. A week later, we met with a mover and shaker in the publishing world. And a week after that, we were invited to a meeting at HarperCollins in Sydney, HarperCollins Publishing. And a week after that, we were offered the contract to write the book. They saw it as something worth getting behind. And 2 years further down the track, it's on the bookshelves here in Australia and available online for those who may want to take a look at it overseas. It hasn't been picked up by any publishers overseas as yet, hoping it will be. But if you go to loftymylifeinshort.com, you'll find out all the ways you can get a hold of it. I've done the audiobook. It's the only audiobook I've ever done, but I had that put in the contract. There's also the ebooks available, and you can order the paperback version of it online as well.
So it was a catharsis, basically.
Oh, man.
You said, all right, I'll get it all out and just spit it out, and then it won't be a part of me anymore.
Yeah, exactly. In fact, my therapist who I'd worked with, and by the way, I see a note coming up on my screen as a reminder to myself that Maurice Tobias, who I spoke about earlier, it's her birthday today. Maurice, if you happen to be watching this, very happy birthday. My therapist said, Lofty, why do you want to write the book? I said, it might help. No, come on. What do you want? BS. Why do you want to write the book? And he asked me the same question 7 times thereabouts to try and dig to the very deepest point of why I wanted to write it. And I said, well, because once I've written it and put it all out there, nobody's got anything over me. Somebody might come up to me and go, hey, you got bullied at school. Yeah, congratulations. I see you read my book. You were a gambling addict. Yeah, congratulations. You read my book. You suffered from anxiety and depression and you still manage that on an ongoing basis. Yep, congratulations. You read my book. So
listen, I don't want to be all like, cue the violin music and that kind of thing because that's whatever. But, I mean, look, all right, you were a little person or whatever the hell when you were a kid. So I think kids suck, man, and they're all cruel and whatever. So I'm sure that sucked, But then, this wasn't something that you were dealing with on a daily basis. Like you said, this was like a left field kind of thing that everything seems to be status quo. And then you're in the booth and all of a sudden you lose it in the booth, which has got to be, that's got to be one of those things where you have one of those attacks and then it just keeps feeding on itself because you're thinking, oh my God, freaking the client's going to freak out and blah, 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 and I'm going to lose my job. And then that's it. That's the end, right?
Oh man, that was exactly it. Once the anxiety attack happened, it just kept exponentially ramping up during that session to the point where I just had to go, guys, I'm sorry, I don't know what the hell is. I had no idea what was going on, Eric. And,
so you didn't have these type. This is the first time you weren't like an anxious type of person, just out of the freaking blue. You're at work one day and it was like you had a heart attack.
Well, yeah, what had happened was the background to it was I'd been offered a management deal by one of the managers in the States, and I signed that deal. And they said, "Hey, look, we'd love to work with you and promote you into trailers and promos and things like that." And I went, "Yeah, sure, fine." And then once I signed the contract, the demons in here just started having a field day going, who do you think you are? You're no good at this. They're going to find out that you're no good at this.
Yeah, that's it, man. Everybody, that voice always tells you you're a fraud, I don't know.
Oh, God, yeah. So the imposter syndrome just kicked in, and it was relentless. I was getting like 2 hours sleep a night, and, the rest
Well, that
of the
doesn't
time,
help either. Then it makes it worse, too.
No. So it was all the culmination of this, that when it arrived at that particular day, all the cards all the dominoes had just stacked up, and it just took a tilt of one, and the whole lot went. And I was able to see by going to therapists and so on that I had actually been anxious all my life, but because that was my normal operating procedure, I didn't know any different. It's like that thing of, if you wear rose-colored glasses, you don't know you've got them on until you take them off.
So if you're kind of an anxious person, then what's with this always is interesting to me. What's with the gambling thing, man? Because that's got to be so nerve-wracking.
Oh, look, that happened when my marriage fell apart back in the early 2000s. And I basically had I don't know if you're allowed to say shits with the world on something like this, but I had the shits with the world, and I thought, nobody loves me. I don't love myself, not feeling real fabulous about myself. Oh, look, I might just start playing the slot machines, and a few dollars here, a few dollars there became a lot of dollars here, a lot of dollars there, and then just blew out into a full-time addiction. And it was my agent, actually, at the time, who said to me one day, he said, Lofty, I want to talk to you. And I said, yeah, sure, fine, because I need to ask you about something as well. And so we had that conversation. He said, now, what I want to talk to you about, he said, stop gambling.
Oh, shit.
And I just went, and he'd been to the pub with me. Like, when he'd come to town, we would catch up, have a beer, go out for a meal, and then go play the pokies. So he'd seen me in full flight. And he said, look, you have an incredibly successful career. He said, there are guys in this industry who would give their right arm to have the career that you've got. But if we're ringing you and booking you for jobs and knowing that all you're doing is putting it straight into a slot machine, what's the point? Why don't we give it to somebody who's going to make better use of it? And Eric, it was like standing on stage naked. There was nowhere I could hide. There was no denying it. And it was then that it was like, okay, I've got to do something about this problem. And I got the help that I needed, and thankfully I got through it.
It is. It's just a straight up addiction. Which I never got that, man. And it can be like addicted to anything, But the gambling thing, and it's not that I'm cheap. Like, I mean, I blow up cash and all kinds of stupid stuff, man. But something about like just putting it in the machine or whatever. I don't even usually buy lotto tickets because I'm like, well, now I want $1 because I didn't blow it on this whatever. But that type of so I mean, I can understand the the drive, the endorphin rush and that kind of thing, I suppose. But man, I mean, if you're like you say, anxious or whatever, that just has to exacerbate things a million times because now you're worried about your money and yikes, man.
Yeah, man. It's like you hear the stories of people losing their houses, losing everything, and I can understand how that happens because once it's got you hooked like a fish, backing away from it is very difficult because, okay, let's just throw out some numbers there to give people an idea of what we're talking about. Let's say you put $50 in the machine. You go, okay, that got me nowhere. I can't walk away. I'm down $50. Got to get that $50 back. So you put another $50. Then all of a sudden you're $100 down. Oh, look, I can't walk away from this. I've got to get that $100.
And it's going to pay off, right? In your head, you're thinking, well, it's only a matter of time. And if I leave, it's going to pay off immediately, right?
Yeah, as soon as I walk away, the next guy to walk in and drop $1 in this machine is going to get all the hard-earned that I've already put through it. So, you have people putting their whole lives through these things. It's a horrible, nasty addiction. It's one that's very hard to break.
Yeah, it's weird you go to Vegas, because most of the time, the slots and stuff aren't legal, most of the states. Mm-hmm. And then you land, and then you get off the plane, and there's like a million machines right there in the airport. They get you right away. And like, here you go. And it's like everywhere you go, you go to a store and there's some sad old woman with a paper cup full of quarters, sticking it in whatever, and you're like, Jesus, man, how sad this is, I don't know.
Yeah.
Those places are so weird, man. I don't know. I mean, that's got to be the Mecca, I'm assuming, if you're really into gambling, it's got to be Vegas. But it's the opulence is so outrageous, You just look at it and it's like fountains and marble and gold and blah, 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 whatever, and all this billions of dollars worth of stuff in these places, And everyone's like, well, I'm going to go there and I'm going to make $1 million, I'm going to get rich and I'm going to win. I'm not I don't really know too much about this, but just by looking around, I'm going to assume that the house kind of
always
has the favor. Really? I can't imagine anybody wins. The carpeting looks like it's got gold threads in it, But everybody thinks they're going to win, man.
And that's the illusion of it all. And thankfully, those days are well and truly behind me. But
it's endorphins, though, right? I mean, it's like when you're on your phone and something pops up on your social, whatever. Yeah. It's the same deal, right? And you just get.
It's almost like the rush. It's like, oh, what's it going to do? What's it going to do? Almost. Let's go again. And, come on. This close. Okay, where's another $50?
Good God. Yeah, man, that's too much for me.
I cannot explain the mindset. You'd need to speak to a psychologist or a psychiatrist who would be able to explain it a lot better than I can. But,
Jesus, what a mess you are.
Oh man, but now, thankfully, following the breakdown, I got my shit together and I got my life together. And
Well, you didn't have a choice, did you?
No, I didn't. It got to a stage where it was either going to break me and kill me, or I was going to get through it. And like you say, I really didn't have a choice. And whilst it was the worst time of my life to go through, the other side of it was the best thing that could have ever happened to me, because I'm in a really good place now.
Oh, that you think you kind of had to go through to get to where you are now, huh?
Yeah, it's to get to the payoff. I call it Lofty 2.0, complete with new software, primarily around the gut, where I've had too many beers, but I have a better way of looking at the world now. I'm not anxious all the time, and like we were talking earlier.
Well, because you're heavily medicated. No.
Yeah. Exactly. No. Like we were talking earlier, I'm more sure of who I am, and not in an arrogant way, but like in being able to deal with a client who says, we really need you to do this particular type of read. Yeah, I understand that, but can we push that to the back of the session? Whereas previously I would have been perhaps oh my God, if I ask them, they may never use me again.
But it took all of this nonsense to get to that point, huh?
Oh, absolutely, Eric. Absolutely. It's and whilst we spoke about the worldwide interweb before, it has brought with it social media. And social media, whilst it has many benefits, the downside is people are continually comparing their lives to other people, or how many likes they get on a certain thing, or whatever. Do you know what I mean? It's like they're living and dying by how many people like what they posted on Instagram, and that's a really sad place to be.
Well, actors especially, and the voiceover actors too. And we've talked about this on this channel before, and man, I hope just one or two people get it. There's so many actors out there that they fool themselves into thinking that they're working when they're just networking with other actors, on Facebook or Twitter or whatever the hell it is. And I'm this and whatever, and creating this fake, kind of identity, or bragging about, I just booked a awesome voiceover job. Yeah, that's your job. Like, I'm glad. Of course you did. Why are you telling all the other actors about it? Go tell the people that hire people,
Exactly.
But that does make it harder for everybody else, because now you feel, well, do I have to post everything that I get now? Or hopefully somebody else does? Or did you like the picture of my smoothie this morning? Or, oh my God, man. Yeah, but I mean, if you're going to be anxious, holy shit, that's like a perfect, recipe for anxiety.
Oh, for sure. And one of the things that I'm getting a lot of from people who I don't even know, who have read the book, in laying it all out on the pages, thank you for doing so and for having the courage to do it. But there was so much in there. Obviously, dwarfism, it only happens to 1 in every 25 to 50,000 people born. So that's not something that a whole lot of people relate to. But being discriminated against, bigoted against, marginalized, suffering anxiety, suffering depression, being bullied, these are things that people do resonate with. And the messages I'm getting from people are just incredible. They are just so incredibly heartwarming, saying, thanks for doing this, and also for showing me that there is a way out of this, that if you just keep putting one foot in front of the other, you'll get through it. Because I think a lot of people feel as though, they can't.
Is I mean, I don't want to minimize anything or whatever, but I mean, I wouldn't know. Is the dwarfism thing, is it as much of a thing as it used to be? I mean, you're of a certain age. I would imagine when you were a kid, that was more of a, it was rare. I mean, like you say, it's rare anyway. But now, people are seeing other folks on TV and, the internet and whatever. Is it a little more old hat, or it's still like a thing?
It's unfortunately, somebody actually said this to me the other day, and funnily enough, they don't have dwarfism, but they were making an observation themselves that there are so many things that are now politically correct, as they should be. Like, you shouldn't be making fun of somebody just because of their sexuality, their handicap, or whatever the case may be. But unfortunately, there is still, in certain parts, that thing of, oh yeah, let's treat them like a circus freak, and we'll have them out there as somebody to laugh at and a point of derision. And I use this analogy often that remember the days, Eric, you're not as old as I am, but people with obesity, people who were overweight, used to be a point of amusement for some, and they would be held up as a point of derision for people to laugh at. But then obesity became a thing that was affecting a much larger percentage of the population. So it was no longer funny to laugh at people who were obese.
Well,
You know what
sure,
I'm
because
saying?
now it's you. So now it's not funny.
Yeah,
It's funny when it's
exactly.
someone else. That's humor.
Exactly. So to a certain extent, there's still the dark ages in some corners of the world, but what can you do with the shallow end of the gene pool? Hopefully one day somebody will empty it, and you'll take those people with them. But you still get your knuckle draggers.
I don't know if you've got this. I'm telling you, what I don't know could fill quite a few books. I should write a book. All the stuff I have no idea what I'm talking about. I don't know if you get these. There's reality shows in the States. I mean, it's like the little guys and then here 18 little kids or whatever the hell it is, And it's,
Yeah.
But they cast the most boring people. Like they're just like Joe Schmo. It's like you turn it on and what is it? And it's like, here's like the most boring person or whatever, but they're shorter than most other people. Hey, what? Really? And but that wears off like in a second. Like there's nothing else. And then they're like, the little people go to the DMV. What's going to happen? And it's like nothing. Like they're going to they go
They'll
grocery
probably go, they'll
shopping.
get their license, and then they'll leave.
Yeah. And like they ask for, can you get that off the top shelf? And like that's it. I have no idea what the draw is, but I guess there is still. But I don't know why people watch Kardashians either. So, but there must still be something, because otherwise these are the most boring people on earth, and they're in like season 10. So go figure.
Well, I think it's I think you touched on it a moment ago when we were making the obesity analogy, that it's somebody who's not them, and misery loves company. So they say that if you're having a miserable life, then if you watch this person having a more miserable life than you, then that somehow perversely makes you happier about your own life. I really don't know.
I don't get the whole, or the Kardashians, maybe because they have a better life and then that's good, and I don't know.
Oh,
I just
man.
can't imagine that it keeps people's interest for that long. But like I said, you know more than me. Are people just like amazed? Like, I can never get over that you're like 6 inches shorter than my wife or what? Who? I don't know, man.
Yeah. It's like, really? Hey, newsflash, we're all the same height lying down, It's just like, it's crazy. It's like, oh, wow. And the other one that gets me is when people bend down to talk to me. I'm not deaf. Unless, I've just chosen not to listen to you because you're an idiot. You don't need to sort of like bend down and get down on your hands and knees.
Yeah, but do you think maybe folks are trying to be, that's like a botched attempt to be polite or something, and then they just, I don't know. I think maybe people don't know.
I don't know. I'm really not sure. But it's funny. I'm with you on the whole reality TV thing. How did the Kardashians ever become a thing?
Who gives a shit, man? It's amazing to me. That I don't have time to even watch freaking TV, but if I do, I watch this fat ass who cares, man? Why?
Exactly.
It's absolutely amazing to me. I don't know.
Yeah, it is. It is to me too. You and I are not going to solve the problems of the world, unfortunately. I wish we could, but
I know. We have a lot in common. You know what we have in common? We are both part of a club where we have found, you always like to say the word partners who are way out of our leagues, who we do not appreciate.
Absolutely.
We do not appreciate. We don't deserve in any way, shape, or form. I saw it for a second before the show, Helen.
It is that thing, as they say, punching way above our weight.
Man.
Yeah. I'm in the featherweight class, and I've stepped into the ring, with a super heavyweight. And no, I'm not calling Helen a heavyweight, but yeah, like you say, man, way out of my league.
Same thing here, man. It's not, and she helped you, right? I guess get out of this whole. I mean, I don't want to call it a funk because, like I said, I don't want to diminish whatever. But she was there through this whole thing, huh?
Oh man, she saved my life on more than one occasion. Yeah, absolutely, literally. So yeah, and I'll always be grateful to Helen for what she did. It was just, I wouldn't have stayed around if it wasn't for her.
Wow. Gee.
I know that's a bit of a downer too, sort of like to make mention of. But to anybody, and I mean this with all sincerity, to anybody who's watching this, who is either suffering with internal struggles of their own because we don't always see it, or somebody who is, then please, there is help out there. Find someone who can either help you or help them, or if you can help them. It's I think just part of it is knowing that somebody is there, someone's got your back. So,
what is it though? What's the light at the end of the tunnel? How did you kind of snap out of it? What changed? Where you say was it just getting professional help, or are you just saying I can't just sit here staring at the walls, I got to get back to work, or what? Where was the you know what I mean, when it went, okay, click, this has to change?
I got a lot of professional help doing cognitive behavioral therapy, along with medication, because there was that chemical imbalance there for a while, which fired off all the synapses that sent me into this tailspin to begin with, and so that had to be managed chemically, and then the rest was through therapy sessions.
That's really what everybody says, and I was going to say like it's that easy, and it's not that easy, because there's still like behavioral cognitive behavioral therapy and stuff. I mean, it's work. You got to put the work in to get out.
You got to work it.
But there is usually you got freaking something wrong with you, man. There's some your chemicals are off kilter, and that's what causes in very, very many instances. And so between medication and between talking therapy and getting the help, that's the beginning of changing it. And there's so many people that are spending their whole lives just in this funk, when it's like, man, just call somebody and like fix this. This is a medical thing. I've been living with this headache for 10 years. What are you done? Go get aspirin. Like, it's there. We can fix this. Yeah, exactly. We have the technology,
Well, that's the thing about it, is that with also mental illness for so long was this no that people, oh no, you don't talk about that. That's that's the dirty little secret that no one wants to mention. And the other thing is that unless it's really obvious and you see somebody having a mental trauma like a schizophrenic breakdown or acting out verbally and physically, that there is something wrong with them, people can be managing this behind this, and you may not know. So it's because people don't know it and can't see it. You can't necessarily see it, that people don't always appreciate it's a real thing. And again, I use the analogy of saying to somebody who's battling with mental illness, look, buck up, you'll be fine. It's like walking into the orthopedic ward of a hospital and going up to somebody with their leg in traction. Hey, man, just go for a run around the block, you'll be fine. No, it doesn't work like that. It's a real thing, and you need help to get through it.
Yeah, fix it. Go fix it. We have, like I said, we are able to do it. In most instances, it's a fixable thing. It's just a matter of, I think some folks even know that, but they're just so in it. To even crawl out is tough. Or maybe you get to a point where you just say, it's, you don't know how to live any other way, and you almost embrace it,
Yeah. It's, I think you make a good point. It's, people don't know how to get the help or how to find the help, or unfortunately they can't find the right help. It's not a one size fits all. You might go to a therapist who's not the right fit for you. It's like, well, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. It's like you move on to somebody who you relate to and who you can work with and work well with.
Well, you don't know what the person next to you is going through, man. So be good to each other. Lofty, exactly. Plug.
Plug.
Book. Again, how do we get this book if we're not down under, or if we are down? If we are down, then you could just go to the damn bookstore, right? First, hold on, HarperCollins, man. Hey, get this guy in the States, for Christ. Put him in Barnes and Noble, man. What's up?
Mm-hmm. Well, they're shopping it to publishers overseas, but it hasn't been picked up as yet. But if you go to loftymylifeinshort.com, LOFTY, mylifeinshort.com, it'll tell you all the ways, whether you're overseas or in Australia, as to how you can get it: audio, ebook, order the paperback book. Yeah, it'll tell you the ways you can do it. So, Eric, I believe you might even have the cover there. Is that right? You have an image of it.
Oh, shit. Did I not put it up? I do.
No.
Wait. Bing.
There
we
you go.
Lofty, my life.
So there you have it. Lofty, my
the
life in
whole
short.
book is written on the cover. It's a new format. That's a wordy cover.
Yeah, it is. It's so there's nothing. There's all the pages, as you'll see, are blank. The whole story is on the front. So yeah, it's but that's it. LoftyMyLifeInShort.com. It'll tell you how you can get a hold of it. You'll get to follow my journey through this industry. It's not just all about the bad times. There's plenty of good times. There's a few laughs in there as well. So including when I met Eric. So that in itself is funny.
Oh my! And well, listen. If you're watching this because you're a voiceover person, then get the audiobook. I'm sure we could get that anywhere, right? Was it on?
Oh, yeah, you can download the audiobook from the site. Yeah. Belinda, I think it might even be on Audible. iTunes may have it as well. Yeah, if you Google Lofty My Life in Short, it'll give you all the options.
And then you get to hear Lofty's pipes while you hear his story. Oh, my, you get to just soak in Lofty.
Yeah, it's subtitled.
I'm surrounded by Lofty. It's like I'm inside him. His words, his voice. Gross.
Its subtitle is Cure for Insomnia. You're having trouble sleeping? Take a listen to me reading the audio book. Yeah. Oh man.
Lofty, thank you very much for sharing your story, man. Because like I said, that's not for everybody to just say, "Hey, here's all the wacky shit that goes on in my head, and I'm just going to share it, for everybody." But like you say, the feedback is positive. Folks that are going through the same thing, which is a lot of folks, it resonates. So that's your good deed. You get a few years out of purgatory, I guess.
Well, one would hope so, but I think that's when that crazy shit's going through your head, and in my experience, you think you're the only one who's going through it. No, you're not. You get to learn that, yeah, there are other people out there who have these crazy thoughts. It doesn't necessarily mean you act on them, but, all kind of stuff goes through our heads on a daily basis, not all of it nice. So, yeah, if you get the opportunity and you're interested in reading the book, please take a look.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for having me on the Outspoken.
Yes. I'll talk to you soon. Been a pleasure.
I look forward to it.
Ladies and gentlemen, Lofty Fulton, My Life in Short, a memoir. Get it, listen to it, love it. Thank you very much. If you like that, sub, etc., whatever. Man, I was going to say something and now I don't remember. But whatever. All right, forget it. I'll say it next time, I guess. We're out. Thank you kindly. Bye-bye.